Hello viewers, welcome to this episode where I want to talk to you about cognitive distortions that leads to depression. Cognitive distortions are just negative thoughts which the brain suggests to us when we encounter situations in life. Usually when we encounter situations in life, the way we interpret it is in the negative way. So it's better to think or interpret situations in a positive way in order to prevent depression and also to overcome depression. So in this video, I will teach some of the negative thinking styles that we engage in when we encounter situations in life. Kindly comment, like, subscribe, share, and let's keep learning. The first cognitive distortion that I want to talk to you about, which can lead us into depression, is what is called overgeneralization. For example, as you walk on the road, you meet a boy who was disrespectful to you in a way. Then you draw a conclusion and say that all boys are disrespectful. Now there is a negative thought that the brain has suggested to you, which we need to re-evaluate and think about it in a positive way in order to avoid depression or overcome depression. If we re-evaluate, then we will know that okay, this boy was disrespectful. It doesn't mean that all guys are disrespectful. You might meet another person who might not be disrespectful towards you. So the second cognitive distortion that I want to discuss with you is what we call catastrophizing. So here you assume the worst situation when you are faced with an unknown situation. So for example, as a student, you write an exam, and after writing the exam, you assume that you will fail. So this is looking at the worst situation. Instead of looking at the worst situation, why not think in a positive way that you fail, or you think that you can pass the exam? So if we can overcome depression, in this instance, we need to think in a positive way that we can pass the exam and not we will fail the exam. Personalization is another cognitive distortion that leads us into depression. In personalization, you blame yourself for situations that are out of your control. For example, a friend dies and then you believe or think that, oh, you could have done a lot or more to be able to save the friend from dying. But we also need to understand that death is inevitable. No matter how much precautions that we take, death is not something that we can avoid as human beings, something out of our control. So we need to be able to understand this in order to overcome depression and also to prevent depression. Mental filtering is another cognitive distortion that can lead to depression. In mental filtering, we focus on the negatives and ignore the positive things that has happened to us in life. For example, in life, you might have had some successes and some failures. In mental filtering, you focus on your failures and call yourself a failure instead of focusing on the positives. In order to overcome depression and to prevent depression, we need to focus on the positives, which is the successes that we've had, in order to improve our mood and overcome depression. Labeling is another cognitive distortion that can make us depressed. When we label ourselves, we define or describe ourselves based on a single event. So for example, we can label ourselves as a drunkard based on a single event or a single behavior, or label ourselves as a failure in life. Such negative labels can make us look down upon ourselves and make us depressed. It is important that if we want to overcome depression, that we do not label ourselves, especially with negative labels based on single events. Emotional reasoning is another cognitive distortion that can make us depressed. In emotional reasoning, we have a false belief that our emotions or our feelings is the truth. For example, you may have a feeling that I hate you. This feeling might not necessarily be the truth or the reality, because in reality our problem might not hit you as you are feeling. So in order to overcome depression or prevent depression, it is important that we know that our feelings about situations might not necessarily be the truth. The last cognitive distortion that can make us depressed is what we call mind reading. In mind reading, you assume that you know what others are thinking. So, for example, you might wear your dress and assume that some people who are looking at you are thinking that your dress is not nice. This kind of thinking can make you depressed. So it's important that if you want to overcome depression, that we don't engage in mind reading, because your assumption of what they are thinking might not necessarily be the truth. So these are some of the cognitive distortions that make us depressed. Usually, we become depressed because we interpret events in a negative way. It is important that if we want to overcome depression and prevent depression, that we interpret events in a positive way. I'll do a second part of this video and explain the remaining cognitive distortions. Comment below and let me know which of these distortions that you've ever engaged in and how you were able to overcome them. Subscribe to this channel, like and share, and let's keep learning.